On today's episode, Nexus connects us to veterans. Welcome back to another edition of Nexus Connexus. Today, we are going to be talking about veterans. Veterans are such an important segment of our population, and many times we've heard in the past that they've been underserved as a community. One of the great things about the Veterans Administration is they've recently created a collaboration with Nexus so that dentists in the Nexus system can work directly with VA, get referrals from the VA. I think you will be excited to hear about how successful this has been and the just dramatic impact in the lives of so many veterans as we go through this episode today. If you're a dentist and you're listening to this, pay close attention to how this works. We're going to not only hear from Brett Brocki, we're going to hear who's the CEO of Nexus. We're also going to hear from some dentists that are in the network and talk about the success that they are having with deploying the oral appliance to veterans through referrals from the VA system. I think it's a great episode. If you're in dentistry, this is something that's going to make you say, you know, I probably need to check into this a little bit more because there's some really incredible opportunities. Okay, here we go. Nexus connects us, Veterans Administration. Welcome back to another edition of Nexus Connects Us. Today, I have a repeat guest. My first repeat guest on the show, Brett Brocki.
Man.
Brett, welcome back.
Thank you, Derek. I feel honored.
Well, listen, we've had so much fun with this show so far, and we've been getting just an incredible response from the audience. We were just talking about before this, even just the comments on YouTube of people that are like, wow, I had no idea that I could find a dental solution to sleep apnea. I'm excited. I'm in the journey. I'm going for my fit to get fit on Friday. So I'm excited about that. I even have my little camera here I'm going to take with me and make sure I get some good footage. But one of the things that we wanted to chat about, and we haven't talked about much so far, is this VA relationship, because you've always, and we talked a little bit about your passion for veterans, but I think it's really important to talk about the program that Nexus has created specifically for veterans, how that relationship has been formed, and how that applies if you're a dentist in a market that has a veterans hospital. You might want to reach out to Brett relatively soon here because there's a pretty good opportunity that's come about.
Yeah. So where would be the first place to start, I think, is the relationship and the meaning of that relationship, the why. How about the why a little? Let's give some
let's do that.
Simon and the why and all of us our why, former military and my family, and an opportunity came about where we could forge relationships with the Veterans Administration and its healthcare network. In doing those talks, those initial, I would say, really forging a path of helping veterans who just couldn't get seen fast enough, veterans who were getting a CPAP, unable to wear it, unfortunately, and not knowing where to go next. And just plugging in our treatment protocol algorithm, I think, made a big difference for the forging of the relationship. So really that beginning is kind of like, I'd hate to say this, you're going out on a date, you're trying to understand if this is the right person to work with, to be with there.
Yeah, sure.
That trial and error period, I think, had been explored by the VA many times over. And the inconsistencies was you'd have providers all over the country who said, I'm going to do it my way. And some ways are great. Some ways were not so great. And veterans are the end product of that not so great or great thing you did. So I think first there had to be some trust and building trust. And what happened very quickly, and I say quickly, in under a few years, the VA saw that we were not only answering to the call to help veterans who were CPAP intolerant, they started to see a connection to us because those same veterans needed dental care before they could even get an oral appliance. What ended up happening is that there were dental patients in need of dental work. And next thing you know, you had potential patients who had to get exams coming out of the military for various things, dentition or teeth / TMJ related. Building trust and adding the network of providers that are helping these veterans for us makes us, we're already passionate. It makes us that much more passionate to know those that serve, we get to serve and we get to help. Our teams are responding to them in less than 24 hours, and they're getting appointments booked. And what's happened, if you compare that to the stats of when a veteran's average wait is just to sit in a waiting room for 3 hours,
Right.
They wait months, weeks. We're answering these calls as hot and as fast as they're coming in, Derek. And we're proud of that. We're working really hard. And for the providers that are hearing this today, if you're a dental provider and you want to potentially work with us, let's talk. Let's just get together. We're very down to earth people, and we'll look at your area and see if there's an opportunity for you to help some veterans also. And yes, you do get reimbursed. This is not pro bono work. There's an insurance plan that does provide for veterans, just getting them seen, and the amount of them that are out there. That's a stark number. It's a huge number. So there's a lot of people that need help. Hello, if we're listening out there.
Yeah.
Let's help them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's step back for a second. Tell me a little bit about the journey of the patient through this. So do they usually know that they've got a sleep challenge, or is that something that's brought up by the doctor or the nurse or the PA? I mean, how does that come about in this environment of the VA? And is it different from what we experience in, outside of that?
A little bit, a lot the same, some things different. A veteran will leave an out process from a military service, and they'll go through a series of tests. And the test could be multiple types, whether it's sleep apnea, concussion, various things, back, knees, all the things that, as you can wear and tear and imagine, that some of these soldiers and veterans have been through. So they go through it's like an out processing physical, Derek. So now in that process, this one determination of rating for sleep apnea, they could get potentially rated that they have a disability of a disease called sleep apnea. When that happens, for years, it's been an CPAP that's been prescribed, and the veteran out process says now, and where they were used to basically coming to a unit every day of people that listen, and a team of doctors that was live and on set. Now they're on their own in civilian life. When you're on your own in civilian life and you got to go figure it out, and you just got to keep going back to that same VA, you're in line now, and it's not the same amount of people staffing wise, and it's not a cohesive unit that you're in. You're literally in a pool of people, and you're hoping to get help with the nightmares that some veterans unfortunately experienced. And you get hung up in your CPAP, and you don't know where to turn next. And next thing you know, you're just constantly reaching to a military outlet, and they don't know yet. And so think about our civilian population alone. They are just now hearing and seeing. You mentioned a few of your friends from this great podcast we're doing to help people, and they're reaching out back to back, because they're realizing, wait a second, that's me. The veterans, let's be honest again. You're talking about potential groups of folks that are very isolated, introverted, have been through potentially something traumatic, may not be as sociable sometimes, have to adjust. And that's harder for them to even make this connection. So our initiative started from East Coast, moving towards the West, and we're just attacking with fervor and urgency to help veterans. That's one component of area that we serve as far as a patient population goes.
So we just heard from Brett Brocki on why Nexus started working with the VA. Next, I'm going to talk to Kevin Eaton. Kevin has a number of dental offices in Atlanta, Georgia, and he's now been working with Nexus for about 6-7 months, having a ton of success, has put over 100 of these devices in his patients, and is really excited about where the relationship with Nexus is going. tell me about your journey with Nexus. So how did you find out about Nexus? Were you doing sleep apnea appliances previously, or what was your journey to get into the Nexus system?
Well, no, like I said, I just started around August
Yeah.
of last year, and before that, no experience whatsoever
Oh, wow.
in the oral sleep appliance therapy. One of my friends, one of my business consultants, knew someone who still works at Nexus, and he got them in touch with me and said, "Hey, I have a doctor in Atlanta who may be interested in doing, working with you guys and delivering sleep appliances." And so I contacted them. We got in touch, and we just got started going from there.
So tell me a little bit about the practice from the sense of, I know that you're involved in the VA program with Nexus. Has that been since day one, or were you practicing and doing this for patients before you started working on the VA program?
No, we started, like I said, last August, and first time ever. I didn't even think about even doing anything remotely like this. I'm an orthodontist, so
Yeah.
I'm doing braces and Invisalign until a Nexus guy got in touch with me and said, "Hey, let's do this as well." I'm like, "Hey, I'll give it a shot. Let's do it. Let's try it."
Tell me a little bit about your experience with Nexus so far, since you really had never been in this. And I think there's a lot of dentists that listen to this that are like, why would I get into this? Is it really for me? I don't know anything about sleep. Are these guys just trying to sell me a bill of goods, or are they really there to stand behind this? I'd love to hear your experience because you seem really satisfied.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a really great experience this half plus year doing it, and looking forward to continuing with it because I've seen the difference it makes
Yeah.
with people. I have a family member who uses the CPAP, and he's not necessarily a big fan of it, but he uses it because he has to. His wife makes him wear it, and as far as oral sleep therapy, I watched a couple of videos on it and read some literature from Nexus, and I was like, wow, this is definitely needed. And in society, I think a lot of us keep going by and existing without the things that that could actually help us. And this product is definitely one of those things. I think the vast majority of us here in the States and really worldwide could benefit from oral sleep appliance therapy because most people I talk to who have CPAPs who have been advised to use them, the ones who've tried it, 90+% of them hate it, and they stop using it. The compliance is low. So
Yeah. Let's talk for a moment about your experience with the VA program, because we do want to talk specifically today about this because it is somewhat of a new thing here with Nexus, but Nexus has gotten this opportunity to work with the Veterans Administration and work with veterans that are struggling with sleep challenges. Tell us a little bit about your success so far and what you've seen and what you're hearing from patients.
Well, so far, in the short time I've been doing this, I know I've delivered, 100, maybe 125 plus appliances, and I have about another 50 or so I'm going to be delivering here in the next couple of months. And it's been a success. Out of all the 100 plus, only a couple of people have liked the CPAP better. The other 100 plus have raved about the oral sleep appliance that we use, and when they come in, they say, "Man, I wish I would have been." Using this earlier because it's my wife can sleep in the bedroom with me, or my husband can finally sleep in the bedroom with me. I feel more energized. I feel more refreshed. I'm not waking my kids up in the next room. It's been a lot of just incredible stories that people have called back to share with me.
So you mentioned you delivered over 100 of these devices. That's pretty incredible in less than 6 months. I mean, It sounds like you're getting the good support. Is most of that coming from the VA, or how is that coming into you right now?
Yeah, directly from the VA. So we've definitely been blessed here in Atlanta, because I have quite a few locations throughout the greater Atlanta area, and like our north, south, east, and west of downtown Atlanta, including downtown Atlanta. So, they have many options to go to in Metro Atlanta for sleep appliance therapy. And so, I'm looking to continue to grow that. And, I love still doing orthodontics, but man, this is so much easier and I shouldn't say this, but it's kind of more fun.
Well, it's something different, right? I think that's the
Right,
great
it's
part too, is
different.
it is a little something. And listen, I think, from a cosmetic perspective, from a dentistry perspective, you're changing people's lives. But when you literally know you're changing their families' lives, or you're potentially saving their life, I
Yeah.
think that's just completely, totally different thing. I mean, we've had Dr. Sirkin on here, the cardiologist for Nexus. And when you hear about just the heart challenges that come in with having undiagnosed sleep apnea, it's really concerning. This isn't just about a bad night's sleep. This could literally take your life. And I think I'm glad to hear that you really embraced that and you've started to see that success inside your clients and patients. Tell me a little bit, do you have any stories of patients and what their response has been to this after their experience?
Yeah, like one patient I saw earlier this week, came in, and they came and had a few questions about their appliance. They've been wearing it for about a month or so, and the one guy, veteran, Vietnam veteran, he's like, you know what? This thing has been awesome. My wife brought me back here, not for me, because she wants one. And because she says, you know what? I snore, but she snores louder than me. And she was sitting right there, and she's like, well, yeah, I do. So how can I get one? And so I asked her, was she in the VA? Because have a contract with the VA.
Right.
And so if she doesn't, so that's why I'm like, you know what? Not just VA, but it's so many other people. The vast majority of people aren't in the VA who could benefit from this as well, including the VA. So I'm looking to maybe get into, civilian,
Sure.
appliances, delivering those to not just military, but non-military spouses, friends.
That's great. And actually, the doctor that I'm working with that's in the Nexus group is here in Arizona. He doesn't do the veterans program yet. He only does working with his existing patients. And there is, I think, one of the challenges that I've talked with dentists about is they're like, look, I'm not the back of the house stuff. When you're getting into medical insurance, you're getting to veterans, like, this sounds like I need to hire a half a dozen people in the back office just to handle this. But that's
Right.
really not the case, right? Can you tell us a little bit about how that works with Nexus and what they take care of? I mean, you really get a chance to just really be the dentist in this and let them handle a lot of that heavy lifting on the back end.
Exactly. They set up they refer us patients. We get in touch with them, we'll set up the appointment with our schedule, our openings. They come in, we explain to them what the appliance is and how it can benefit them. We take the necessary records, whether digital scanning or PVS impressions. They come back about a month later. We deliver appliance. We go over the instructions. The Nexus team handles the billing, the necessary paperwork processing. We do a little bit of that, but through their guidance so that we can submit it properly to Nexus so that they then can submit the claim so that we can all, get paid from that.
Yeah, you
And
want to get paid, right? You
kind of
have
help
to. I mean, you love veterans. We all love veterans, but would like to make a buck on this thing too, right?
Yeah,
It's
my
important.
kids were in school, got to kind of pay for their
That's
private
right.
school and all that fun stuff. But yeah, but it's really cool because it's easy. It's easy to work with the Nexus team. They make things so smooth. And so I haven't had any hiccups in the 8 months I've been doing it. So it's been incredible.
That's really great. And yesterday I was talking to another dentist in network. He works exclusively with medical insurance. He's just starting to get into the VA piece. He's actually been doing appliances for many years, but he moved over to Nexus. And he said that getting paid has been the real thing with him. He's like, look, I love helping people. And he's like, a lot of times with the other companies I worked with, it was like I wasn't always getting paid. And he's like, and that's an important part of this. You want to make sure that it is profitable to your practice, because why offer it if it's not?
Right.
And I think that is the great thing that I've heard from talking to all of the people in network, Stan and Pat and all, everybody that's on the back end of Nexus. They really do understand that, and they understand that there has to be that motive involved. If you're going to have a dentist that's going to take this on as a big part of their practice, they've got to make sure that it's going to be profitable for them and that it serves their customers and then also fits in with their business. Nobody, I think, wants to go hire a bunch of medical billing people to sit, in a back room someplace. Being able to outsource that to Nexus is a really important part of the whole program.
It really is. And it kind of gives me peace of mind because when I told my staff we were going to start doing this, boy, their first reaction was my office manager and my assistant office manager, like, wait a minute, what are we going to have to do? How much more work are we going to have to do with this? And once I explained it to them, they were a little more relieved when they knew that, Nexus was going to kind of handle most of the paperwork and make it easier on them to lessen their load so that we can still make a profit, but not overburden them with yet another thing. So it's been incredible.
Dr. Eatmon, tell us about how people can find you. I mean, if you're in the Atlanta area, you're the man, right? You're the guy that's doing this and can help them with that in their lives. Tell us a little bit about your locations and where you're all located in the area.
Okay, so right now we currently have 12 locations in Metro Atlanta.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Great. I was like, wow. Okay. You're really doing this thing up. That's great. Congratulations.
Thank you. If it wasn't for my wife, I probably have 30, but she's changed me. It's like, Kevin, you're not taking over the world. Just
yeah. That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
All right. So basically, yeah, we're it's called Alliance Orthodontics. Okay. And the website is bracesingeorgia.com. And so you get on the site, you can see all the different 12 locations because I don't know if I should name all now, but
I think just go to bracesingeorgia.com. I mean, you got so many, that's amazing.
Yeah. So all the locations we work with sleep appliance patients as well. So that gives us a greater range to kind of reach the whole market, whether you live an hour north, south, east, and west of Atlanta. We have you covered.
So we've talked with Brett, the CEO of Nexus. We've heard from Kevin in understanding the success that he's having with this practice. But what about somebody new? Let's say you're a dentist that has an interest in this. What's the onboarding process like? What's it like to engage with the folks at Nexus and get started? Well, next, I've got Dr. Marc Newman. Dr. Newman has been a dentist for a long period of time and had an interest in sleep apnea, but it wasn't until things went down with COVID that he and Brett had a chance to be introduced. And he's currently in the process of rolling out the Nexus dental solutions in his practice. Marc, how did you get into the sleep apnea game? Because it doesn't seem to make the first connection, right? When you're like, wait, you're a dentist and you're into, how did you get into this?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for highlighting that. When I first started as a dentist, I mean, we were in a smaller office as my uncle, my older brother, and then a year later, my younger brother joined the practice. My uncle left the practice, and there just wasn't enough dentistry to go around for all of us, Newman brother dentists. And it was my buddy in Chicago that was non-compliant with his CPAP. And he saw a dentist in, downtown Chicago, and, he had an appliance made. And when we're talking and he's mentioning that, he's wearing the appliance, it's good. And I'm telling him that I'm trying to, figure out a niche here at our practice. That's when I learned about dental sleep medicine. I called the dentist in Chicago that made his appliance. And it just so happened he was also one of the big educators. He had a weekend course, just like a month away. I drove up to Chicago, took his weekend course, and was absolutely obsessed with the therapy and the whole science behind the appliance. And, I brought that back to our office. And, we kind of struggled at first with implementation of something new to our business. There's a big education component, a big training component. And I took that burden of education and teaching on myself. And I wasn't very successful for, 7 years. I considered it a very expensive hobby. I had some time to really think about things, how I wanted to pivot my sleep program during the pandemic.
Sure.
That was March of 2020, as we know. We were mandated to shut our business down, and we took the extra precaution, shut down for about 2.5 months.
Oh, wow.
My routine was completely changed. Instead of getting up and going to work, I sat around and drank coffee. I got on LinkedIn, and that's what did it. Like I got on LinkedIn, and all of the people in the dental sleep community I noticed were like, hey, do you know this person? Do you know this person? I'm like, I've met all these people throughout the past 7 or so years at the seminars, at sleep meetings. And that's when I connected with Brett Brocki, and we had several phone calls, aligned completely. We saw eye to eye on every single issue in the dental sleep world, as far as like where the pitfalls are, where I'm struggling. He had an answer. And we just connected, and I started beta testing stuff on his systems, and and it's working out very well right now.
That's great. Tell me a little bit about sort of your experience so far. I mean, when you're working with patients, I mean, are you leading with the dental conversation? Are you leading with the sleep apnea conversation? What are patients coming to you for primarily?
Yeah, so the patients we're a heavy restorative dental office. So we do a lot of general dentistry, cosmetic dentistry. We restore teeth. We help patients restore their smiles. And so, we have a new patient that comes in, their mindset is on teeth and gums, and they're not expecting to get screened for, a sleep breathing disorder. There's a comedian that I listen to, Lavelle Crawford, and he has this bit about how he walked in to his primary care office for a chest cold, and he walks out with diabetes. So that's sort of similar to they come in with teeth questions, and then next thing they know, they're going home with a sleep test. And so we start with the dental first and foremost. We care about people's teeth. The teeth have to be healthy in order to wear a dental appliance, regardless. So we start with that conversation first, and then we do a sleep screening from the Nexus Dental Systems sleep screening, and we get the conversation started. And all it takes is one conversation, and it opens up a world to the patient. At least they get the education piece, the awareness, and so then we stage their treatment plan. So we get the dental stuff done first, and then we then attack the airway issue. Or we go vice versa, and we see where the patient's at, and we kind of meet them somewhere in the middle.
It's exciting to see how this is becoming more mainstream, and it's not just about that big old clunky machine anymore. You can solve this with something else.
Right. And another point to touch on is that, people see us, the dentist, twice a year. So we're doing an exam twice a year. We're, checking in on their medical history 2 times a year, and we're talking to them, at least twice a year. And, when we're taking that initial medical history intake, we ask them if they have a primary care physician or who their primary care physician is. And there's quite a few that don't have a primary care physician. And I was just on a call with Brett the other day, and there was an interesting stat about, I think it's about 1/3 of the population in the United States don't have a primary care physician. And so we're here to kind of fill that gap. And what Nexus does is they help to elevate the general dentist or any type of dentist to provide a form of medical care, or at least help triage patients to the right care, because there is a gap in the care for the airway.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Let's talk for a minute about a few minutes. Let's talk about the VA program. And I know it's not fully deployed yet in your practice, but there is this exciting opportunity that has started to come about where there's an opportunity with the VA. And I think, the VA gets a bad rep sometimes, but the reality is I've got some other friends that do some work with the VA, and the VA really is trying to help their patients, and their patients are, those who have served in the military. Tell me a little about that program, at least as far as what you know so far, and then how you see that changing your practice going forward.
Yeah, so we've had some initial discussions about the VA here in Indianapolis, and like you said, we have not been able to launch that program yet. There's just a little bit of red tape we're still working through.
It is government, Mark. Let's be honest, it's not real easy, right?
But from what I've heard from our point of contact at Nexus, his name is Scott, and he manages the VA programs across the country. And what he has told me is that it is a very interesting program where patients need the dentist for help, because there's a lot of veterans who are not getting along with their CPAP, and then they don't really know where to go. And so Nexus is helping to connect those veterans that are failing their CPAP machines and not having any treatment, get connected with a dentist that can then help them. And so I've heard that, and I've heard that with the VA, the patients are plentiful. So it is potentially creating some pivots and some general dentists to do a little bit more focus in on airway in their practice.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you spending it with us. And, it's interesting to hear the success that people are having with these devices and the success, I think, as a dentist in building out your practice, right? You and your brothers now don't have to fight over the scraps. You can,
right. And I was going to say a beautiful thing about Nexus Dental Systems is that the systems that we have in place are not only at a high level of sleep care, but it's so automated with our staff where it allows our staff to do things with such a consistent level. And I'm able to help see even more patients with dental issues as well, and just kind of blend the two together. And it works out really, really well.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear it. Marc, thank you for being here with me. And thank you all for joining us on Nexus Connexus. Well, thank you all for joining us. I think it's such an important topic that we need to keep reinforcing. If you snore, if you have sleep issues, if you are non-compliant, you really need to jump in and get a sleep study done. Work with your dentist to get a dental appliance. We've got lots of dentists all across the country in network that really understand this and work directly with the Nexus team of cardiologists and doctors and billing specialists to make sure that you do this right. Okay, until next time.
In the human race, and we won't stop dreaming. No, we won't stop dreaming. We won't stop dreaming.